Hey friends, I am super stoked. Had to pop in and just give you this three-part framework because I'm hosting a workshop this week called Less Hustle, More Flow. Oh my god, guess who's here? My husband. Um, Babes, please apply this to your life. Hi, Tracy. So good to see you. My goodness, how are you? I am hosting a workshop on Wednesday called Less Hustle, More Flow, and it's about building your 90-day goals and game plan to create the business, the brand, the life that you really want to be living in the next 90 days. But to do that from a place that feels really aligned and authentic and easy so that it doesn't have as much of the hustle factor that we're so used to pouring into what it is that we do day to day. I'm really excited about this because it's a lesson that for me personally, as a classic overachiever, high achiever, driven type of lady who's been on her own professionally for 10 years, was in corporate before that, was always like hitting the grade and making the mark in school. Like I was always the person who was top of her class, grinding it out, getting it done. And a lot of my professional identity was built around that hustle mode. And a lot of my sense of success came from, did I achieve at like the highest optimal level? And that's kind of how I was programmed for a long time. And I think it's not a bad way to measure success, but it is not the only way to measure success. And if you haven't consciously curated some tools, some strengths, some opportunities, you could call them, like I think of them as frameworks, to curate ease in your work life, then you will naturally default to this hit it hard, grind it out kind of mentality. And that gets in your way. It gets in your way, especially when you are designing a career on your terms or a business on your terms, because you feel like it's happening to you as opposed to you being in control of it. And the truth is, we get to create our work and our lives from a place of what we want, not just what we feel we have to do. And when we're used to taking instruction from outside of ourselves and getting things done, when we've hooked our identities into that achievement muscle, it can be hard to disconnect. So that's my invitation overall. I'm about to get into the 3 steps to share how you can build less hustle, more flow into a 90-day plan, or really any planning or goal setting that you do, because goal setting is such a ripe area for us to either overextend ourselves or set the wrong kind of goals so that we then feel self-defeated almost inevitably, or we crush it but it's not satisfying at all because it's like when you eat a meal really fast you can hardly taste it. So I'm going to talk about the 3 steps for building hustle and flow in that area. But even if you are not in the midst of goal setting right now, I just want you to know that you have full permission to slow it down, to be intentional, and to ask yourself genuinely, how can I work smarter instead of harder? How can I give myself a little bit of space and grace to think about working with my own strengths? And how can I maybe adjust what I have defined as my standard of success so that when I am moving forward, I'm moving forward from a place of wholeness, integrity with myself, and acknowledgement that I'm not a robot, that I'm not a performance machine. I'm actually a human living her life or his life, and I want to really enjoy it. So here's the deal. If you are in goal setting mode right now, if you, like a lot of people I've been talking to, the start of 2021 was not some huge trumpet and we were all out the gate, right? Like there was a lot of stuff happening. Not only were we coming out of 2020, which was this year that gave us incredible changes in every area of our lives, often very difficult ones, right? So we're coming out of all this uncertainty, all of this falling apart of old structures and routines, for a lot of us being in lockdown or being in quarantine and having to really change the way we relate to each other as well, our physical rhythms. All these changes meant that 2020 was obviously a big year, but 2021 was inevitably going to be a year that was different, where the start of the year was different than any other year we've experienced, collectively or personally. And on top of that, you get into, at least here in the US, what was happening politically. And I think it took up enough bandwidth globally that a lot of people were attuned to that. There's a lot of, chaos, I think, for lack of a better word, and a lot of fear and a lot of continuation of sort of the politics of vitriol and like terror, for lack of a better word, continued at the start of 2021. It was not an easy start to the year socially. I will also say anecdotally, I have connected with a lot of people who, a lot of my clients, a lot of friends in business who said, yeah, I was super busy at the start of the year. This year started like chow out the gate. It was nothing slowed down. A lot of us couldn't travel for the holidays, or we weren't doing what we were used to. So I think taking that time off, it just looked different. Everything looked different this year. And so for me, having this focus on goal setting now in mid-February is actually an appropriate time, because for a lot of us, we're just sort of getting over the hump of, wow, let me get my feet under me to start this new year. So whether or not you were in that place, whether or not you were starting to begin thinking about goal setting, and if you are, I would love to hear about it actually in the comments. If you are thinking about your next 90 days or your next 6 months or what you want to do in the year ahead, if that's the vibe you're in right now, I'd love to know, because it's experimental, anecdotal for me. But in any case, I know it's a place that a lot of my friends have been in, a lot of my clients have been in, and it's always something we can attend to. So you don't even really have to justify it. Here are 3 steps you can use to create goals and a game plan from a place of less hustle and more flow. Step 1. Before you choose your goals, think about how you want to feel and the kind of life you want to be creating as a result of your goals. It sounds kind of simplistic. It's actually not, especially if you're a high achieving driven type, like yours truly, because you probably want to rush right past the visioning piece of it. You probably want to just jump straight into what's the outcome? What do I want to get? How much money do I want to make? What kind of growth do I want to achieve? Like, what are those outcomes? And you want to fixate on the outcomes. Well, before you fixate on tangible outcomes, let yourself slow down and really feel into what would a tremendously nurturing, abundant, joyful life feel like. What would it feel like? What would it look like? In my workshop, I'm giving a very specific visualization with journaling questions. It's all around this. It's pre-work for the workshop on Wednesday, actually. So if you think you want to come to the workshop, sign up sooner rather than later so you have time to do the pre-work. But just tuning into your vision is really important, because it gives you an anchor. It gives you groundedness to your goals so that they're coming from some place that's meaningful to you, that they're not coming from a place of should. Should goals are the pits. So that is actually the second step. Step number 2 is, once you do get into the piece of goal setting and saying, okay, this is the vision, this is the sort of feeling I want to cultivate, this is what a good life means to me, this is what success looks like on my terms. Then you get to slow down and anchor into, okay, what are the goals I want to create then in the next 90 days based on that vision? You have your goals, you begin brainstorming your goals, and you may want to do them all. You may want to do it all in the next 90 days. You might be like, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to hit my first 6 figures in business, and I'm going to lose 20 pounds, and I'm going to make over the house, or whatever. No. Here's what you're going to do. Let yourself make your list, and then tune into your priorities. What are your priorities? What are your real, honest to goodness priorities for the next 90 days? I have a lot of questions in the workshop around this. We're going to do some group coaching around this. But it's important for you to know and to give yourself permission to choose your priorities. When we're talking growth goals, there's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of I'm not sure how it's going to happen, and that's going to make me feel vulnerable and potentially scared, and it's going to require going outside my comfort zone, and it's going to put me on a learning curve. Like, growth means all of those things. So when you are pulling a growth goal into your life, it is not just, here's some stuff I'm going to check off a list. I mean, it can be that simple, right? Like, ideally it is that simple. You just check things off a list. But realistically, internally, it's going to require you going outside your comfort zone. And that means you cannot do it all. First of all, because you don't have enough hours in the day. Second of all, because it's going to jeopardize your presence with the beautiful things that you already have in your life that you probably want to make more space for anyway. But also because growth goals require a little more than going down a list that someone else gave you. Growth goals, even if you have the steps, growth goals are going to ask you to change on the inside. They're going to ask you to evolve a little bit. And that requires something, as my coach used to say, that requires something. And so you want to build in a little bit of buffer. That means saying yes to less and saying no more. And that's okay, because then you get to actually enjoy the experience of growing into your goals. Okay, so that's step 2, is choosing your priorities. And then step 3 is doing what I call engineering ease. And engineering ease is really about 2 pieces. Getting some spacious structure in place so that when you wake up in the morning, you're not struck by the overwhelm of, oh, I have to do everything and I have to achieve this goal and I don't know where I'm starting and oh my God. No, give yourself the favor, do yourself the favor of creating a list. You do want a list of things to do because you want a place to start. And you can choose things that you're going to do on the path to your growth goal that come from an intention of ease. Say, I'm going to work smarter, not harder on this goal. I'm going to work with my strengths. I'm going to say yes to doing the things that I want to do, but to do it in a way that actually feels good to me. So when you're creating your to-do list, you want it to come from that energy of ease, that energy of alignment with yourself, not fighting yourself or making it harder than you need to. So that's one piece of the engineering ease. And then the other piece of engineering ease is about getting support. It's about inner and outer support systems, leveraging your inner and outer support systems, knowing where you can go for help when you get stuck, because you will. And just in the planning part, you're not going to have to think about, you don't have to engineer everything in advance, right? It's not like you have to have every step of the next 3 months planned out. It's not like you have to have every support structure in the world like lined up for yourself in advance. But you do want to just think about it. Where might I get stuck? And so that's the other piece of engineering ease. It's those 2 things. It's creating a spacious structure that gives you something to hold on to as you're doing the work, which will leave you less room for self-doubt because you're focusing narrowly as opposed to in an overwhelming kind of like, oh, I have to do it all energy. And you want to be in this energy of calling on your support systems, acknowledging that you have support systems already, that you can always ask for more help. Incredibly powerful tools, both of those. So those are your 3 steps for crafting a plan and goals that have a less hustle and more flow baked right in. Step 1, tuning into your vision. Step 2, getting intentional about your priorities. And step 3, engineering ease. So if you would like to set aside 2 hours to actually dig into this, I will pop a link into the comments below, but you can also just go to my profile. In my bio, I've linked to the workshop we're doing on Wednesday. And like I said, if this appeals to you, hop in sooner rather than later, because there's some pre-work to do. It went out this morning. And either way, whether I see you for the work session, the group coaching session or not, I really encourage you to look through this lens of less hustle, more flow, and be asking yourself that question constantly. How can this be easier? What if this were easy? So that's my gift to you on this Friday afternoon. What day is it? Monday evening. And it's been great. I'd love to hear if this resonates for you. Tell me more. And I will talk to you soon.